Braxcast time once again. This is the 14th episode, and this is a massive episode. We've got so much to get into, but first, I'm going to break convention with the Braxcast. I really don't like talking about drama or the haters that surround the Rippaverse. I talk strictly about the comic book related stuff, that news. That's why I founded this, is talk about all the goings-ons in the Rippaverse, from the company news that gets announced and also the story and lore that's getting established. But I have to talk about a Rippaverse here, the most notorious and well-known. It's My Wallet, and I say My Wallet especially now because we've got possibly the most, I would say, the most expensive single item that's been released, and I decided to buy it against My Wallet's wishes, as much as it's detracting from the existence of the Rippaverse because of all the money I spent on this, especially this statue, a $500 limited edition statue made in collaboration with McFarlane Toys in the Rippaverse. This is a 12.7 inches, 1/6 scale, made of resin, limited edition. Like I said, 1,050 at most, 500 minimum is the run. So this is a really limited, high quality, big statue that's got a lot of complicated pieces like Yaira's hair. All this stuff's going to need support beams. It's going to have really good packaging to make sure it gets to the customer in one piece. So I'm really excited for this, and also not just as this, as a fan getting a really cool statue, but just all the possibilities this opens up with the acceptance that there is just absolutely no infrastructure to make toys domestically and in-house. They're not there yet. They'll get there one day, but for now, they're going to be working with companies like McFarlane Toys that have access to that infrastructure to build cool stuff like this. And of course, the first thing is that Yaira statue for $500, which definitely is very expensive. It's only for the, I'd say, the most hardcore of the fan base, which I definitely am part of. Very excited to get this. It's going to be the end of this year, the beginning of next, so Q4 2024, Q1 25. That's what they're shooting for this to be a release date for. You can buy this on the Yaira campaign store page right now. And speaking of the Yaira campaign, $1.5 million. We just crossed that, and if we get to $2 million, we get another Yaira statue on top of this. So this is the really exciting thing. But with this Yaira statue, it was just one piece of the puzzle in terms of the future of the Rippaverse. Right, we've got the whole idea of saying, if we've accepted that the toy and statue business is the way that it is, and we're going to work and make stuff with that going forward, what could they make in terms of making toys and statues? And of course, you've got the idea of making posable action figures, right? So this is the Ice and 2 fan art submission from Donnie Danko, also known as Philip H. Woods. Did this for the Ice and 2 fan art contest. And I think this idea of packaging books with characters, with action figures, is a really good idea, something the Rippaverse should do. That's how Spawn got as big. If you don't know Spawn, that's Todd McFarlane's character. That's what launched to Image and helped launch McFarlane Toys, was that he would have these Spawn toys would package in a Spawn comic, and it got people invested in not only Spawn as a character, because you would have the action figure to play with, but you would have the comic to read, so you would know that Spawn is Al Simmons and get an insight on his story, right? And also you'd have the cool action figure to play with and collect as well. You could definitely do the same thing with Rippaverse action figures, right? You could have Ice and be packaged with Ice and Bucks. I think the more feasible thing, the more realistic thing would be to have basically Icems and Yaira's, Ingrid Valdez, Brian Solari, Braxwell, those characters be action figures packaged on their own, and then anytime someone goes to buy it, they also get a copy of the Ripazine. That's definitely a deal they could make with the local comic book shops, because they sell toys and all those sorts of things, and that's where they're making a lot of money these days, is by selling the toys like this, and not necessarily the books themselves, but doing something like this, where you bundle a character with their comic book, right? You make a Yaira, action figure, something that's modeled after this, and then you have a Yaira #1 to go along with it, right? To get people invested in the character, and also just have something cool to collect and to look at. But that is the massive news I wanted to get into, is that you have this collaboration between the Rippaverse and McFarlane Toys to not only make this really cool statue, which you can buy now, even though it is really expensive. I think for being a foot tall, 1/6 scale, made of resin, a really low print run, I do think it's fairly priced. It's just definitely still really expensive to pay $500 for a statue. But you look at the statue market and you see stuff like this going for similar prices all the time. So it's definitely not the most ridiculous thing to have a statue in that price range, the $300 to $500 price range. A bunch of statues exist in that price range. It's just it's going to be out of everybody's budget. So doing stuff that's sub $100, posable action figures, and bundling that in with books, or like I said, having Ripazines be sold when you go to check out and say, hey, you get this free copy of the Ripazine, then you can read the Ripazine and get into the Rippaverse that way. I think this is a fantastic thing. So this is a great mock-up, and I think doing something like this, or tying in the books and the action figures in some way, or the statues action figures are similar, right? Tying those in, I think is going to be a really good thing, and I think it's going to be very appealing to retailers. But we'll leave that for another time. But we're going to go into some more news. So there's going to be a Dallas meetup June 8th. So I'm not going to be in Dallas June 8th. I got a vacation this month in New Hampshire. I'm going to go to PorkFest. So that's where I'm going to be at in the month of June, getting ready for that. But if you can make it to Dallas June 8th, you got to RSVP. You can not only meet some of the Rippaverse staff, you got Eric July, you got Kara Lynn, but a whole bunch of F&T geeks and gamers people will be there as well. So I figure I would mention that on the Braxcast because, of course, Eric July is going to be there. The Rippaverse is definitely promoting this as something that's going to happen. So Dallas meetup, that's Rippaverse's home turf. There's going to be a meetup June 8th, which you have to RSVP for. So go on to their social media, get the details for that to make sure that you RSVP. You can't just show up and expect to meet, the Rippaverse and Geeks and Gamers crew. But I figure I would mention that really quickly. But we're going into the next thing here. This is ISOM. Well, ISOM number 3 is going to be written by Eric July, but there's another title that's going to be written. So a lot of people think this is Norfolka, right? It could be a completely different book. I think it could be, and I don't have my copy of ISOM 1. If I did, I would show that at the end of ISOM number 1, Avery Silman ISOM meets up with Cedric Gaucho, the owners of Taylorsville, talks about how it's a story for another day. Now, could you also have Cedric Gaucho, who did work for the SSWL, that's the wrestling league in the Rippaverse? Could that be his story? Could that involve Larry Shungite and he's writing that, and that's why that was teased in ISOM number 2? I think that's definitely a possibility. So Norfolka, book that's about Cedric Gaucho and the SSWL, definitely could be in the pipelines, and that Eric could be having Eric on as the writer. It could definitely be a new character. It could be a Dokuman book. There is a lot, but the what I want to mention is that in terms of the comic book aspect of this, which I think is the foundation. So if we look at the Rippaverse as being this media powerhouse that is being built, it's being built with comic books as a foundation, and Eric definitely is invested in the writing aspect of that. He's written 3 issues of ISOM. He's written the short story Salvage PI. And of course, working on something else, and how he could be working on more than one book at the same time. And he's just keeping only some of his cards a little bit away from his chest. But we're going to go into the questions of the day. I know I'm like rapid firing through this stuff. I'm just excited because of that statue, man. All the things that it means. It's just, there's such a bright future for the Rippaverse. And with this being the last week of the Yaira campaign, this is the last Braxcast before the campaign ends on the 27th. Of course, they had all the social media stuff going on. These 2 questions of the day, which I'm going to get into. The first one being, what kind of exclusive merch are you interested in? I definitely think statues are really cool, but stuff like posters, not necessarily like stick-ons, but like cloth roll-off posters would be a great thing. I would love like a really cool limited edition Alpha Core hoodie that's got like the Alpha Core logo on the back and then the Alpha Core in text on the front. Would be a really cool thing, and have like limited merch designs. But I definitely think I'm less interested in exclusive merch and more like just having like a great catalog of stuff that's constantly in stock for as long as people have a healthy demand for it. But doing stuff that's like a limited run, really expensive statue. I think the Yaira statue, and if I can find it, I think this is like a perfect exclusive merch item. It's it's really high quality, really high price, and it doesn't preclude them from making like a cheaper mass print version later on in the future. So I think doing stuff like that for like hoodies and beanies and stuff like that, having like an Alpha Core limited edition hoodie, and then having the one that can be made in perpetuity, so that way Alpha Core can be this brand in the same way that Spider-Man or Superman is, where there might be like limited edition like Superman costumes or stuff like that, but you can always get a shirt that has the Superman logo on it, right? And I think that should be the methodology the Rippaverse has. So I'm really just interested in just merch in general and just making it as good as possible. But like limited edition stuff should definitely be special, and it shouldn't come along too often, because you want to have people who are really hardcore, want to collect everything, and giving them that time so they have that space in their budget. And we're going to get into the last question of the day and really sum things up with this. Which are you, reader, collector, both? I'm definitely both in terms of the Rippaverse. I have I have graded copies of everything. I have all the collectors, all the gold edition ones that they sold themselves. The signed copies I got for Item 1, I got them graded, but they weren't, I got them signed, and I got the signed ones, and then I had to get them graded myself, which makes them a little bit less valuable as a collectible, but they're still really cool. So I'm definitely both. And with the way I want the Rippaverse to go going forward is to not necessarily do 4 covers for every single book. Something like Gooding and Horseman, they should only have 2 covers, so that way it's cheaper to collect signed and graded copies of all of those. But something like a Yaira #1 or an Isom 3 or a Bloodroof #1, so those should have 4 covers. But having every single book have 4 covers, I think can get a little bit excessive for the really hardcore collectors. That's just it's me personally saying, like, I want, trying to look out for my wallet just a little bit. And when I say that there should only be 4 at most, and then not every book needs to have 4 covers. I think having 2 for something like a Gooding, or if like a character like Salvage PI gets his own book, his own one-shot graphic novel that only needs 2 covers. And also something like the Ripazine, I don't think it's going to be having much value as a collectible for every single issue. So like the 2nd, the 3rd, the 4th, the 5th issue, doing like collector's editions of like each and every one of those is going to be it would get a bit excessive, and getting like rated, this golden signature series for every single one of those is definitely not necessary. However, if you're doing like a special one, like you're doing like a Rippaverse's 5th anniversary Rippazine, and it introduces a new character, or it introduces like a new event for the Rippaverse that's going to be really important. Like, let's say you have like Bloodroof gets killed off or something like that. I don't think that's going to happen, but that's just like a theoretical thing. Like a big character gets killed off, or a big character massively changes. To say like Sydney Bloodroof like gets to be the ultimate ruler of hell, or whatever it is. I don't know why I'm thinking about Bloodroof so much. I think I'm wearing the Bloodroof shirt. That's why she's on my mind. But something like that, it introduces like some big new thing that's going to happen in the Rippaverse. Doing collectors editions of that is going to be more valuable. But as a collector, I want the things that I collect to have value, and I also want the things that I collect to not come around so often, so that way I can collect them all at a reasonable price, right? So doing something where you're just making it to be excessive is definitely there. But collectors are always going to have things to buy and buy as much stuff as possible. So there's definitely a very fine line to play with this. But I think so far they've been doing it really well. But like I said, those 2 covers for the smaller books, the one-shot graphic novels, the off issues on ongoing series, and then doing 4 covers for the bigger releases. Something like an Isom Free or a Bloodroof 1, or an Alpha Core 10, where it's like a really big special media book, like where that would be a double issue that introduces a lot, right? That would be something I would want 4 covers for. But I think going more than 4 covers and doing that for every single book in an ongoing series is going to make it too expensive and too unfeasible to collect in terms of just the storage space as well. But with that, that has been Braxcast. This again, it's been the last Braxcast for the Yaira #1 campaign. So the Yaira 1 campaign is ending on May 27th. So be sure to get your orders in. Of course, you can buy this statue, this beautiful Yaira #1 statue being made in collaboration with McFarlane Toys. Definitely the biggest thing. And I thought I was going to have like be able to gab for this for so long, but being very rapid fire with this. But this is really just a really exciting thing. There's a whole bunch of other things that are coming on the pipeline because of this announcement. The fact that the Rippaverse is willing to collaborate with McFarlane Toys in this capacity and work like that, it just opens the door for so many things. So it's going to be really exciting to keep up with the Rippaverse. And if you want to keep up with the Rippaverse, then like, comment, subscribe, and you'll be able to keep up with the Braxcast, and I'll be talking about all the news there.
Thank you for tuning in to the Braxcast. Be sure to like, comment, follow, and subscribe to keep up with the Rippaverse.